we've got a public hearing. Montezuma, it's on special use permits submitted by Horizon Tower. Kim, could you read the roll, please?
Commissioner Attell,
Present.
Commissioner Sukla. Here. Commissioner Candelaria.
Here.
Administrator Powers.
Here.
Attorney Baxter. And Kim Purcell, Montezuma County Clerk and Recorder. Notice is hereby given that the Montezuma County Board of County Commissioners will be reviewing and determining a proposed high-impact permit and special use permit submitted by Horizon Tower. Agents Shelley Neese from Mira for the purpose of developing a new wireless telecommunication facility and a 100-foot monopole tower on property located at 6991 Road 24.3, Cortez, Colorado, consisting of 4.42 acres, more or less, located south of Road G, west of Road 24.3, situated in Section 10, Township 35 North, Range 16 West, NPM. The hearing will be held Tuesday, May 7, 2019, at 1:50 p.m. in the Commissioners' Hearing Room, Montezuma County District Courthouse, 109 West Main, Room 250, Cortez, Colorado. Interested persons may attend and give input. Information may be obtained from the Planning Office, Room 270, District Courthouse, Cortez, Colorado, or accessed online at http://montezumacounty.org, Web Departments Planning. You may also contact the Planning Department at 970-565-2801 with questions. This file can be inspected in the Planning Department during regular office hours. Dated this 12th day of April, 2019. Kim Purcell, Clerk, Board of County Commissioners, Montezuma County, Colorado. Published in the Journal on Tuesday, April 16th, 2019.
Thank you, Kim. Is Ms. Neese here? Are you Mrs. Neese?
I am.
Okay, thank you.
She's with Horizon Tower.
Right, gotcha.
I'm with, my name is Shelley Neese, and I'm with Horizon Tower.
All right.
And there's some confusion because initially we contract out work to local market people. There's an individual with Premier who was working on the site. He had unfortunately had other things to attend to, and so I took over the planning and zoning hearing on behalf of Horizon Tower, and I am a part of Horizon Tower.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially, we're proposing to locate a 100-foot monopole structure on a 50 by 50 lease area designed to hold or accommodate up to 4 wireless carriers. At this time, the anchor tenant is a company by the name of AT&T Wireless. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. But the primary purpose of this facility is for a project called Project FirstNet by the federal government. There was an award put out to the wireless carriers. AT&T won that award, and it basically is a focus for the government to cover rural areas where previously there may not have been coverage or substandard coverage for E911 or emergency type of services. That's the primary purpose of this tower. As a result of winning that award, AT&T was able to also utilize the facility for its own wireless telecommunication services as well as high-speed internet, or what you're commonly accustomed to as wireless on your telephone, data wireless.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and as a result of that, 2 things are important here. One, the cell tower is first and foremost for emergency services. So the event of an emergency, basically, if everybody in the community got on their phone and jammed up, a site can only handle so many calls at one time. Emergency services would take first priority. So the public would take second priority during that period of time. This is important. We have several cases in California. I'll let the wireless carrier remain nameless because I represent them in other matters. But what did occur is that we had a lot of forest fires in Northern California, as I'm sure you're all aware, and they did not block the service to the public, and so it was jammed up for the first responders, and they could not effectively communicate with each other. I think there's a lawsuit pending. I don't know that much about it, but I know that with this system, that will not occur. So first responders will take priority, period. So that's really what this tower is about. But it's also about increasing and enhancing the wireless service in this community. In addition to that, it's about building a co-locatable facility so that you don't end up with 3 or 4 towers. Then you generally, we're located in an area where we know there are blind spots. And I can explain that to you further, but I'll stop there with some questioning. I know we meet the Montezuma County Code. We've worked very closely with Don, who's been excellent to work with, by the way. Nice addition to the staff. We had a period of time where there was a gap, and so when he came on, it was very helpful to have someone help us interpret your code. We believe we meet those requirements on Dirk Johnson's property, and we respectfully ask that you recommend approval or approve our facility today. And open for questions.
Yeah, I think we have a couple.
Okay, fair enough.
Go ahead.
Well, my question is you were approached about relocating the tower at the landfill, and you were going to find out some additional information?
I don't believe I was approached, but it was brought to my attention today by Don, and so I spent the last couple of hours doing some research for you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give us the findings of that research?
I can, and I have some visual images that I can share with you. The landfill is approximately 2.25 miles. It looks almost due east, a little southeast of the summit site. And we're proposing, and if you want to pass that. Okay, now, typically a site will cover a few miles, somewhat further. We're going to be at a high level, so we will have coverage outside of this 2-mile area, but we'll have comprehensive coverage around this facility. And I'm going to show you some other visuals that may help you, because there's an additional site that we're looking at approximately 3.87 miles away, which is going to be to the northeast of this facility. And we call that site Hawkins. When you take a look at this photo, it might help clarify some things. What you're going to see here is highway coverage. Okay? And what you're going to see here is more dense population. When you shoot out to that landfill site, we're never going to cover that highway. Okay, so that
Because
may,
you lose line of sight, is that why?
well,
Or-
it's because of the distance. Because we're closer in here, this site hands off to this site, and we're going to get this whole highway coverage and this more densely populated area. This site might be an addition at a later date. It's far enough away as maybe the population grows in this area. This could potentially be another site to fill in that triangle, but at this time, this is what we're after.
But
And this
my
one-
question is how far can they reach? Because my understanding was they can reach a lot further than 2 miles if it's line of sight. Is that correct?
It will reach more further than 2 miles, but it will have a degraded signal. This site will not cover this site. This site will not cover this.
So you can't amplify you can't power that up anymore to strengthen your signal with greater amplification?
I'm not an RF engineer, and I
Yeah.
can't redesign their site. I was on the telephone with him. This would not be a consideration. The distance is too far. Had I known about that in advance, I would have certainly brought you propagation maps, which would substantiate exactly
Right.
what the coverage is here.
Because one of our largest service areas that we have the poorest wireless radio communication to law enforcement, ambulance, anything, is down McElmo Canyon, which is straight due west of where you're at from the M&M area.
You know, someone brought that to my attention. In fact, I asked, I've had a couple of locals around town, just in the restaurants, and just really nice people, by the way. And I've asked them, and they're like, can you put one up here? And we don't have any coverage up there. And I said, let me go back and look at what the plan is, because the ultimate goal with the FirstNet project is to come in and cover those areas, cover those types of
Because your main road corridor right now is pretty well covered, even on South Broadway. I mean, 491 and all that. I don't think we don't have gaps in that service area, do we?
From an AT&T and FirstNet responder plan, they're saying this is where we want the coverage over here.
Okay.
So again, I'm not an RF engineer, I can't
No,
redesign your system.
nor am I.
I'm
Nor
going
am I.
to answer the questions I can.
Yeah.
But there would have been propagation maps had I known that we would have brought, and we could have easily shown you the coverage in those areas. I would like to look into and see what our more comprehensive plan is for your area in those areas where you're lacking coverage. Because my suspicion is that will be the next round. And if I can get you that more comprehensive plan, at least get it to Dawn, if you guys can see what the bigger picture is.
Okay.
And you're welcome to keep those if that's helpful for you.
Sheriff, we got a question for you.
So, because you just had the last couple of hours to actually talk to your engineers, I'm looking at an elevation plan here. You gained 310 feet of elevation just from where the towers would start, and the potential to be even higher
At the landfill.
is greater. So I would think anything that's on a tower gives you a broader spectrum.
So do you have any problem with?
You're looking at the
with
ground
coverage
elevation, and
on-
elevation
for
isn't,
your sheriff's department?
elevation is
This is
important,
Hawkins
Mhm.
Reserve.
but it's not the
135.
only factor.
I understand that.
This is
Okay, we do have some
M&M.
high site takedowns,
Do you have any
actually, on some
trouble
of
with
these big
radio
plateaus where
communications in that
they
area?
came in and they were blasting throughout a city.
Yeah. No.
And now they want more comprehensive coverage in given areas, and so they're even doing high site takedowns. So again, I saw the ground elevation, I looked at it, I see what you're visualizing. Hey, if we put one here, can it just cover the whole area and it would take care of that need? And you're not gonna get the comprehensive coverage that they're looking for from an engineering standpoint. And again, had I have known a little bit sooner, I would have
Yeah.
bought you the propagation maps. Certainly willing to support that as backup information and get that to Dawn.
Okay.
So this proposed site is right off of 24.3 and G,
Mhm.
correct?
That's the plan here.
When are you proposing to start construction?
As soon as possible. So my understanding is that you do not have a formal building permit process. We will self-regulate in those conditions. There's tremendous liability on the part of the carriers as well as Horizon Tower. We construct these things 10 times stronger than they need to be for that reason. And so we will want it clearly documented how far we had to bore down, the structural integrity of the tower, et cetera. So we will self-regulate. And so that process will take us probably into August. We also have FCC requirements that we have to meet, which are environmental reports, NEPA, et cetera, to make sure we're not disturbing, Indian burial grounds, soils that might have contaminants, et cetera. That process will not be complete until early August. So all of those requirements have to be met before we can touch the dirt, basically. So we would look at a fourth quarter build.
Right now, they haven't done any soil investigation, but that'll have to be done to
Prior.
determine
So
what
the
type of foundation.
I apologize. The FCC regulates us, and the federal government regulates us far more than any county ever would.
Mhm.
So, but we're also happy, we have to sustain those records for our own integrity. The carriers won't locate on a tower because they can be sued unless we perform those acts. They could be, and they can be in violation of federal government regulations and thus be fined as well. But we're happy to provide any of that documentation to you folks as well as a condition of approval or just to do so anyway, so you have it on file if you'd like.
I would, I mean, if you're still waiting on a geo report for your foundations, you're not going to start construction anytime, within the next 3 weeks.
We're not going to start construction within the next 3 weeks, no. We
So
would start construction in August.
I would still like to see you go back to your engineers, and give us a week or at least a better view of really, if it can be relocated, just for the concentration of where it's at due to the public right there. I mean, I understand what you're saying, it needs to be within that area, but I think, I would really like to see the site moved if possible. And I don't think a week, asking for a week would be,
I certainly don't have a problem with supporting what we're saying here, because I don't have any particular prejudice or bias.
Sure.
If we could go up there, we would go up there. So, I don't have any vested interest one way or the other. It's the carrier and the RF engineering department that has a very strong vested interest in the coverage location.
right,
So
but I don't think that they've had enough time within just 2 hours to really do everything that they needed to do.
I'm fine if you want me to go back and get you those propagation maps, if that's a request of the commission, so you can take a look at exactly why we are where we are and get a a letter from the RF engineering department and substantiate that further, I have no problem with that.
I'd like to hear some public comment if there's anybody in here that is here for this. But I as well would, I don't have the knowledge to say what reaches or not, but I know traveling from here to Phoenix, where the towers are and where I can get reception and can't. I know traveling from here to Monticello, where the towers are and where I can get reception and I can't. And they are sparsely put where those towers are, and I get good reception. And that's the only thing I'm basing my experience on. So I would like for you to go back and educate us, because you've got a 100-foot or less tower that I think is to meet regulations by the airport. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, we would
And-
like to have a 150-foot tower there, but.
So we're going to let you have a 150-footer at the
But the problem
landfill.
was, we would have done that. If we could have moved further from that airport and put up 150, we would have done that. So when we pulled the FAA, it was our desire to say, hey, guys, how far can you go so we can get more height? And the FAA was at 100 feet, and the RF engineer said, I want to be there. So that's why we are there. So we kind of pushed back, and we didn't, then the FAA came back and said we had 100 feet, and they were willing to live with that. But I respectfully hear what you're saying.
Well, they've obviously got some definite reasons why they want that tower there. And it's beyond my scope of knowledge to know how they've configured their cover, what they've done with their configurations to make that so. But if it would not hold you up on any of your activities, I think to satisfy the two commissioners here, if you could have your engineering people take another look at that landfill, or is that possible or not possible for them to reinvestigate that?
No, I'd be happy to do that. I'm considering coming back out, and I'm wondering if we could do it as a condition of approval that I would have to clearly substantiate from an RF engineering standpoint to your satisfaction with plot and coverage maps that we can provide to Dawn, a statement from an engineer, if that would satisfy that requirement, or if you feel the need for another hearing.
I feel the need for another hearing,
I
me
do too.
personally.
Okay.
The thing is about location. And if it would work at the landfill, we don't have any neighbors. And if you had a 200-foot tower there, it wouldn't matter because it wouldn't affect anybody. But where you're proposing this tower, well, is there anybody out in the audience that's here for this meeting that's for or against this? Well, that's interesting.
And a lot of this is set for our emergency services?
Yes.
So for cell phone service for emergency services?
Project FirstNet is first. That's the government program. You can look it up, and I probably can get him substantial information on it, but it's called Project FirstNet.
Right.
It's a federally funded program. I think it's $40 to $50 billion. And they basically put it out to bid to all the carriers so that everybody had a fair opportunity. And AT&T won the bid. And it wasn't a bid where you bid price. It was who was the best capable of supporting that infrastructure in the most timely possible fashion. They had to turn in an application. AT&T won the award. And with that award, in addition, it does benefit them because they get to also offer their wireless service. But it is driven by FirstNet. In other words, the engineers don't get to say, well, we feel like we need more cell phone coverage here. FirstNet has first dictatorship on, we want the design here, 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 and here. You guys are secondary. Your coverage is secondary. So the primary purpose of this is Project FirstNet.
I see.
Also, the location of the facility to the other facility, which is the Hawkins site, we're currently trying to locate that facility. I mean, do you try to locate in the least obtrusive place possible? We really do. In the case of that facility, we are trying to locate on an existing radio station. We have some challenges with that. We've been out in the field a good part of the day. There's a county property out there as well. We talked with Dawn about. We're leaning back and forth. We're kind of going back to perhaps the radio station. We're trying to sort it out, but we like the radio station because you've got other towers there, right? And so that makes
Yeah.
sense. The county property kind of abuts that and is very near it. We're trying to meet setbacks and work with the county on that facility. But these two sites would have to hand off to each other. So it's not a random design where I can have them just rechange the design. I am curious, though, for the county's sake, because you do have some other coverage areas that need coverage, what the next phase of this is, because it would fit right into Project Percent.
And that's actually where, that is important to me, is the internet service. So what could you provide, where do we get the biggest bang for our buck? I just talked to the emergency personnel, and they get coverage on that highway right now. But we're looking at how are we going to get more high-speed internet out to our constituents.
I
And
understand.
yeah,
Yeah. So I don't think this is a one-stop deal where we're just gonna go away, because they're trying to cover every rural area. I mean, the ultimate goal is to cover every rural area. I was shocked when I heard this in the United States. So they would have FirstNet responder coverage in every rural area. That's quite a feat, right? And if you've got some roads up there where you have no coverage, I would think that would be inclusive. So for my own curiosity now, I want to see what phase 2 of this project is and where it's going to be.
you have to understand why we're gun shy. There was a project called EagleNet. It was $100 million in Colorado to provide high-speed rural broadband. And what happened was they overbuilt. They put twice as many lines in on the east slope, so they didn't have to travel as far, so the company could make twice as much money. And it was the government was gamed, and we don't want to see a tower put there so that they can game us again. We want to get high-speed internet, good telecommunications, and the tower is located in the best possible place. That's all we're after here.
Well, we are a build-to-suit tower company, and our interest is in, first of all, understand, we didn't select this location. Make that clear.
Who did?
AT&T came to us, okay? And they said, will you put these towers here for us? So at their bequest, this is not a spec building, okay? The reason they do that is because we'll put out the capital contribution, so they don't take it out of their capital budget, okay? They get more bang for their buck, and then they pay us a rent. So they basically rent that space. And then we go out, it benefits everyone because we go out and market it to other people, and then those folks can go on the tower as well, and you have one tower. That's how this occurred, okay? But as a company, we're not opposed to going out to areas where there is no coverage, because that's where we want to be. I will tell you, though, that does no value to anyone if you don't have an anchor tenant on that tower. If I don't have a carrier that says I'm going to locate on your tower, I can put a pole in the air all day long, and it's just going to sit there. But I am highly willing and motivated, not only for business purposes, but just for purposes of this discussion, to find out where else they're proposing to go and if we could partake and be part of that. Okay, because you've got some areas. I was curious when I was talking to the gentleman at the restaurant, and he said, yeah, when we come down, I think he was saying some road, ski slope or some area, I don't recall where it was, but he said there's no coverage there. If there's an emergency there, we don't have anything. The more coverage we can get out here, the better. So I personally am very interested in some other.
That's up the Dolores River is where he was talking
Yeah,
about.
that's right.
Which this wouldn't service that anyway, so.
No.
No.
If it's okay with you, I'd like to table this for at least a week, if that's enough time to really educate us better, to see if it would actually work at the landfill instead of in this populated area where there's nothing like that around there.
Okay.
So this required public notice, and so we'll just make a motion to continue it and finish
For a
this
continuation.
on a certain date and time.
Are you okay with that?
How much time would you like to have, Ms.?
I'm
Peace.
thinking about my schedule and the RF engineers. We don't respond that quickly.
Yeah.
We can do it at your discretion, the time.
Okay, so you're thinking next Tuesday, correct?
No,
Or,
whatever's up to you.
or
It's up to
a
you.
week from, if you want 14 days, we
3
can make
weeks.
that at whatever.
I think,
What?
let me ask my colleague. Do you have thoughts on that? Couple weeks out?
There's no meeting on the 21st.
On the 21st?
There'll be two commissioners out of town.
So it'll either be next
Oh.
week or 3 weeks.
Okay.
Would 3 weeks delay your project?
3 weeks would be okay.
Okay.
So a continuation on the 28th is acceptable to you?
Yes.
Okay, well then I would move that we have a continuation on this until the 28th at
Does the planning department want to?
2 o'clock. Do you guys have a time?
Do we need to keep it at the same time, or?
No, we just need to announce what time we want.
Do you have anything else on the agenda for that
I'm
day yet,
thinking that-
Sharon?
Yeah, I have a full agenda.
Is there,
So it'd be, probably this time, 1:50,
Okay.
2 o'clock,
Pick one,
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock.
you know, I'm thinking that's the date right after the 3-day weekend, right? That's, can we make it to the Thursday? Wednesday, Thursday, or you only meet Tuesdays?
Just on Tuesdays?
And maybe we should make it for 2 weeks out.
They won't be here 2 weeks out.
Can't do it. So it's next week or 4 weeks out.
Well, unless we had a special meeting.
It's the 14th or 28th right now is when we're
Right.
scheduled. We don't have a meeting on the 21st.
Or
I'm
the
worried about
4th.
that 28th, because I've got to get into Phoenix, that's going to be Monday to.
How about the 4th of June?
CI conference
Oh, yeah.
in Keystone.
Man. Man.
Well,
We can have a special meeting.
That's what I'm saying.
okay
We're the
with
ones
that.
that inconvenience you. So if we have to have a special meeting for this, I don't know why we wouldn't.
I'm okay with that first week of, that 28th. I just think that day is tight for the flight down. I could do the Wednesday or the Thursday, or.
Will you be flying from Cortez into Phoenix?
I'll be flying from Seattle to Phoenix to Cortez. Seattle, Phoenix to Durango, and then drive over, which is not that big of a deal. You usually got to come into Phoenix the night before, and then you can grab the American Airlines flight that night, or I can grab it the next morning and then drive over.
Do we need to make her be here? Do you want to put her on video or by phone? It's fine.
Yeah,
I think
we could put you.
We can do that by a video or phone conference.
I'm glad to do that.
I don't think you need to do that.
Well, and then I'm thinking I can get my RF engineer on the line as well.
There you go.
Sure.
Because you're gonna have him, and he can testify.
Yeah, we have
Okay.
capabilities of multiple people being on there.
Let's do that.
Okay, on the
Yeah,
28th at 2
you
o'clock.
don't need to come all the
28th,
way back down
2
here.
o'clock.
28th at 2 PM.
Right, and I'll have an RF engineer that's available, and then we'll have propagation maps, and then we can talk specifically towards that. And then I'm gonna look into some of the other areas in the county where you're lacking services, see what else I can find out.
Good,
Okay?
good. Thank you.
We can give you information which places lack
Okay.
I'll take
service.
it, so Don can get that to me.
Going to make that in the form of a motion?
So yes, I did move that we continue this hearing for May 28th at 1400.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to continue this public hearing till the 28th of May at 2 PM. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much, respectfully.
We'll,
Thank you.
Thank you
We'll
for
keep
working.
Thank you for working
Thank
with
you.
us.
we'll now close this public hearing until